Welcome back to another edition of the Educational AD Podcast. We couldn't do these without the incredible support of our sponsors, and we want to take a moment to say thank you to all of them. First, thanks to our diamond sponsor, Varsity Brands, including BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herff Jones. Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement. We also want to say thank you to our platinum sponsors, including Camp Mobile, where leaders communicate better, Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing, Vital Signs, bring student achievements to life, Gipper, sports graphics made incredibly simple, and Ephesus Lighting, innovating a brighter future at every level. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is a good friend, Moe Orr. Moe is the vice president and founder of the THSN Media Group out in Orange, California. Also very active in a number of formats. He's the host of Talk the Talk. He posts quite frequently on Twitter with the high school narrative and has a wide range of platforms to help a high school AD that we're going to get into later on. But first of all, welcome, Mo.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on your show. I watch, I listen to your show, so I'm excited to be a part of it as a guest.
Well, we're glad to have you. And again, we're excited to find out how the things that you do can help ADs across the country. So let's jump right into it.
Awesome.
As you know, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school and college, and maybe how a love of sports led you into the position that you're in now.
Well, awesome. I was actually born in Detroit, Michigan, and we talked about before we started the show, cold weather and snow. I think that it kind of forced my parents' hand. They said, "Hey, you know what? Let's go somewhere a little bit sunnier." So we decided to move to Southern California. Father was in the military. I'm in the Marine Corps, and got stationed at Camp Pendleton at some point. So then we came to California. I was raised in the inner city. Went to Washington Preparatory High School. I don't know if you heard the story of George McKenna. That they did a show on, a movie on. So I went to that school, played basketball there, football there. And of course, that's your getaway. So the sports aspect of it was something that I loved very, very much. After leaving Washington and graduating, I actually went into the military, kind of followed my father and brother's footsteps and went into the Marine Corps.
Thank you for
and
your
I actually
service.
played on the All Marine Corps basketball team. You know, I don't know if I was good enough to go to college in the beginning and play, but as you get older, you tend to get better and smarter at the game. So I played on the All Marine Corps basketball team, traveled around the world, and played colleges and, other countries, of course, other armed services in basketball. And, that's where my love of sports come. The competitiveness and the teamwork aspect of it was something that kind of pushed and touched me. So that's what I did with that.
Well, again, thank you for your service. Really appreciate that. I did not serve, but I've had many of my student athletes serve, and wow, just very grateful for the sacrifices you guys made. And
Thank
girls.
you so much.
So take us to that next step. You served your country in the Marine Corps. You got out. What happened next?
Actually, when I got out, I started to say, I'd given into the GI Bill and thought, I want to go to school and try to see where it takes me. So I went to Cal State Long Beach first, and I wanted to pursue the criminal justice field. And so once I did that, transferred over to Cal State Fullerton, started doing criminal justice. And then I got into theater while I was there, oddly enough. So I started double majoring in theater and criminal justice. And once I started doing that, I started to get this itch for instant gratification, I would say, with the shows that we're doing and doing stuff on stage and, tap dancing and all these other things that came with that. And that opened up a different um, kind of bug in me to whereas I wanted to do something different. I have a brother who's an attorney, who was an attorney at the time. And so I was looking at going into that field along with him as he started to open up his law firm and stuff like that. And it just didn't work for me because, this part of the entertainment industry was kind of something I wanted to seek and see if it was something there for me.
Well, again, I was fortunate enough in college. A friend of mine drugged me to play auditions, and to make a long story short, just loved it. Didn't get that bug as much as you did. I stayed with coaching, but great experiences, and always encouraged, my student athletes as a high school coach, to get involved with the play, the band, student government, that type of thing, because again, you only get one chance a lot of times to do those experiences. Well, how
Do you
did you
know,
get?
can I say something real
Oh,
quick? Do you know
absolutely,
that
yeah. Huh?
we talk about, especially athletes and high school athletes, right? And one thing that I've started to do as I interview these student athletes and these coaches, I talk about two sport athletes. And I was interviewing a kid and he said, well, I don't play two sports, but I am also in the choir. So he's this big football player and, 4-star athlete going to a Division I college, but he also enjoyed the singing aspect and the camaraderie of being with those other students, being able to perform as well. So I think it's important that not just, two sport athletes, but being able to do something else, other extracurricular activities for athletes as well.
Oh, absolutely. And, I've told this story a number of times. I think I've learned, I won't say as much, but I've learned some really important coaching aspects from the band director, from the choir director, from the drama teachers, how they organize, how they deal with their students, how they motivate. So absolutely, for
Yeah.
students as well as for coaches. Well, let's make a jump. How did you go from, college student, college athlete to where you're at now, working with student athletes and coaches in the world of, call it athletic administration and performance?
Well, what's interesting is I am also a college and high school basketball official. I think that's kind of what took me into the area that I'm in right now and where I am with the high school narrative. Um, going into high schools and talking to coaches and being on the floor with these athletes and, during that time out, kind of talking to these athletes and coaches and asking questions and the impact of an official is very different than one of an administrator or a coach or an athletic director. And starting to see the impact that you guys play with students, and not just athletes, but students in general as administrators, watching my kids go through schools and high schools and how these people influence them. I kind of thought that, so many things that are going on, and I'll touch on the things that we do for the high school narrative, but I'll talk about some of the key components first. Mental health, and it's all these taboo words, anxiety, bullying, teen suicide, all those things that we really don't want to talk about is something that hit a chord with me. And I wanted to kind of help impact young students' lives and hopefully give them a positive outlook and a positive platform to be able to go see things that are inspirational. So I was talking to some friends of mine that I've been friends with for over 25 years. And they were actually within the high school. Mary, she coached at J. Sarah High School in the Trinity League for 13 years as a basketball. And Tony, he was actually doing the same thing, assisting at that school level. And, we just kind of put our heads together and said, we want to do something to impact kids in a positive way. So we came up with the high school narrative, and, it gives students, kids, faculty members, schools, a platform to be able to talk about their culture and their spirit, and, hopefully give students something else to look at other than everything that's on Twitter and Instagram, social media.
No, absolutely. I've really been impressed with some of the things that you have on your website and some of the links that it goes to. For someone who's never been there, our listeners are primarily athletic directors. Tell them why they should go to the High School Narrative website and take advantage of some of the things that your organization can offer.
Well, I'll give you a couple things. First off, when you talk about school spirit and culture, right? We have a free app, THSNapp.com. You can go and get our free iOS app, right? And inside that app, we have a section, thumbnail, where it's just school spirit and culture. So for someone who is so into their schools, athletic directors, and they want people, if somebody is in a school in Florida, wants to come out and go to one of the local high schools out here, and this kid doesn't know anything about the school, you can come onto our app, be able to see some of these videos, these hype videos, and all these other things. We've partnered with a lot of different companies to be able to see things such as kids who want to get into radio or TV or production. It's the Student Television Network, where kids are behind the scenes. Some kids are behind the scenes and some kids are in front of the camera, but it gives them an opportunity to be able to see different things. And that's just one point of it. The other part is that within these videos, all those taboo things that I talked about, there's something that maybe a commercial in the middle of a podcast that speaks to school violence or teen suicide or dealing with depression and or anxiety. And they get to see, we call it giving them the dessert first. You're watching this show and you're seeing all this, but then it cuts away for 30 seconds or 45 seconds to talk about these issues, because sometimes how kids are, they don't want to talk to anybody because they might feel embarrassed or something like that. But then they see that they're not alone and it's not just them when they see somebody else talking about those things. So we want to be able to provide a positive platform for the schools, the ADs, and of course, the student when it comes to the high school narrative.
I really appreciate you going into that, and we'll do this at the end, but if an athletic director, if a coach who's listening wanted to reach out and find out more, what's the best place for them to go? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
For me, they can reach me at Moe.Orr. That's MOE.ORR at the HS Narrative. That's how they can contact me by email. We would definitely get back out to them. Same thing with Mary and Tony. Mary is Mary.Rosignol. That's NAL at the end, at the HS Narrative as well. And towards the end, I'll give social media and all that information so they can get in contact with us for sure.
Okay. Thanks. Mo, in our business of, dealing with kids and coaches and sometimes parents too, I think leadership and mentorship is always part of the equation. And so I'm curious, who are some of your mentors, either, adults or maybe coaches you had growing up, or people that you've worked with or worked for? The expression I like to use is, I still hear those voices in my head. when I'm talking with a kid or a coach. So whose voice do you still hear?
It's interesting. And in school, as I was going through it, we had a coach. I had a coach by the name of Coach Thompson, who was very instrumental in my development as a young man, being able to help guide me through the things. Because I was raised in the inner city, gang violence and, all those things, drugs and all that stuff was prominent, in my neighborhood. And it's stuff that we saw all the time and that I saw all the time. So having a mentor at the school was something that was a necessity, I felt, because, you're seconds away from making the wrong decision. My stepdad, who has passed earlier last year, was very inspirational as well. I saw him as hardworking, responsible, and looking to provide for his family. And those are traits that I have taken on myself, and it has helped me become a better man. One of the most influential people that I know is actually my brother. As you're a kid and you're sitting around the house and you're sharing a room with this guy who irritates you, 98% of the time, when you're looking at him in his eyes, you're telling him you get on my nerves and we're going to fight all the time. But when he walks out that door and you're watching him from a distance, you start to see the things that he's doing and the choices that he's making, that you want to, kind of emulate, and I think it's important that, young adolescent adults find somebody that really inspires you. So my brother really, really inspires me. Even to this day, he is a judge in Portland, Oregon, for the circuit courts. And it's something that I admire. I call him for advice all the time, unpaid, by the way, just so you know. But I call him for advice all the time, no matter what it is, whether it's ideas I have for the high school narrative, or if it's something about my little one, my kid, and, what did you do during this moment to, kind of help, your kids, especially now with distance learning and stuff like that. So huge inspiration to me. And then lastly is my mom, who is a huge inspiration. Talk about strong women are very important. They say behind a strong man is a strong woman. And she taught me that they're not behind you, that they're to the side of you. So those are my mentors and people that kind of inspire me to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing. And I think you might have been the first. We've done, over 100 of these, but you might be one of the very few that have mentioned the impact of a brother. And I look back at my own two older brothers who were significantly older than me, but still very much an influence and something that I aspired to, be like them. So appreciate the shout out for all the brothers. Okay?
Yeah, but you never think about it. I wouldn't say, if you wouldn't have asked me, I probably would have never thought about it. But I know, subconsciously that, you want to do the things that he did or be better at something that he did. But if he's not making bad decisions and bad choices, you try to emulate that, and not make bad decisions or bad choices as well.
No, absolutely. Okay. Mo, you've had a chance to work with a lot of student athletes, a lot of ADs and coaches. And one of the things we pride ourselves on with this podcast is the idea of best practices. So I don't want to narrow you down. I was thinking about asking about, what's some of the better things that you've seen, best practices with regards to mental health. But share with our audience, what are some of those things that you've been in that school, or maybe it's a program that you helped initiate, that you can look back and say, hey, that's one of the best things that we've ever done?
That's a very interesting question. We have partnered, the High School Narrative, we've partnered with a company called 417 Recovery. A lot of times people hear recovery and they think that it's this inpatient clinic and they're going to be stuck out here for weeks at a time, and that it's drug induced and drug related. And that's not the case. 417 Recovery is an outpatient clinic out here in California. One's in Palm Desert, one's in Mission Viejo. But what they do is they have these therapists that work for them. The program director, Scott Callett, and Stevie Coons, they have these clinical therapists that work with them. And it's also not just for any drugs and stuff like that, but it's for kids' mental health issues, anxiety, depression, and being able to get them into schools to be able to talk to parents first off, right? Because with those taboo words, what you start to notice is that a lot of schools don't want to talk about it, as if it's not happening in their schools. Some of the great things that I've seen is from doing the show and then somebody reaching out on social media and asking me, is there any way that you could get 417 Recovery to come to the school and talk to the parents? One funny story is a guy reached out. He said, all those things that you're talking about is happening in our schools. Like, it's happening in our schools, but they don't want to acknowledge it. If I could get the leadership at the school to say, hey, can you bring them in? Would you do it? Yes. Then he said to me, well, what would you want to talk about? And my response is, what would you want them to talk about? Because there's something that you're seeing inside the schools or things that you're hearing that has triggered you to reach out to me. So one of the biggest things that I think that we're doing is putting schools, youth, parents in front of people that can help. And if those people can't help, they know where to go and how to direct them to find help. But it's probably been one of the most inspiring and best decisions we made to partner with 417 Recovery, because you see the results of kids who are coming from the darker side of decisions that they've made, and then moving to the lighter side of being a success story from dealing with them.
Yeah. Oh, well, I really appreciate you sharing that. We're visiting with Moe Orr, the Vice President and founder of the High School Narrative, also a host Talk the Talk. Go to his website, highschoolnarrative.org, and all sorts of resources there for athletic directors, coaches, and student athletes and families too. One question we've been asking our guests, which again are largely athletic directors, has been their response in their school, in their area, in their state to COVID. To our listeners, we're recording this in early January, so by the time you hear it, things will hopefully have changed. But Mo, you're out there in California. California's one of the few states that has not returned to play. I know you're not a doctor. I know you're not an infectious disease expert, but just what has been your perception of the response from kids, from coaches? How are they dealing with, for lack of a better term, no sports right now?
Well, I can tell you that first and foremost, the kids want to play, right? It's so tough, and I have the luxury. We actually host and record the National AD meeting that they have once a month with a few hundred ADs on the call, hosted by Ira Childress and at Gulliver Prep, and Amanda Waters from Modern Day. And those are up on our app as well. You can watch them if you missed them as ADs. But to be able to listen to all these different athletic directors from all across the country and to hear about the protocols that they have in place, I think one thing that I enjoy about it the most is that each one of these ADs are willing to share the things that they are doing. Here in California, it's tough. Being on a conference call with the commissioner of CIF out here and knowing that they want the kids to play, but they want it to be done safely. These kids' mental health is important, and it's an issue. And some of these kids, the sports aspect of it is the highlight of some of them going to school, right? And it's also their lifeline to getting out of the hood or wherever that they're living, in these areas. It's some of their lifelines to try and be successful or to pay for college and getting a higher education. The CIF Southern section, they want the kids to play, and they're doing everything in their power to get them to play. Our football season is slated and scheduled to start in late January, early February, based off the CDC guidelines. And hopefully with the vaccine being out, they'll be able to figure something out. Currently we're in purple tier, which is the highest tier. And for some sports, you can be in red. And for other sports, you have to be in orange in order to play. But I think that if we look at it, and our leadership in California looks at Florida, Utah, Arizona, and all these other places that have already completed seasons and now in their spring season. And if these athletic directors and administrators at these schools show these guidelines that they have set in place and follow these guidelines to a T, I think that we can get these kids out there, because some of them, I feel sorry for seniors who haven't been able to play, and colleges that are looking to recruit, and all those things. And I feel so sorry and feel so sad that some of them might not get those opportunities any longer. But I think that we should be able to play. We have reopening plans. A lot more testing is being done. The vaccine has now been put out there. So hopefully here in the near future, in January, right now, late January, early February, we'll be able to put these kids in pads and all those things.
Yeah, it is frustrating, just from a global perspective, to hear about these stories of kids not being able to play sports. And since decisions were made back in July and August, we've seen a lot more states open up. I don't know if this is true, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it because I do trust the AD that shared it with me, that the infection rates, or the contact tracing, however you want to call it, are virtually the same in states that have returned to play versus states that have not done anything. So, it's the kids aren't getting it. And the states that have played, it's something like 94% of the games that were scheduled were completed. There were a few games that had to be canceled. Our school, we didn't have to cancel a single game from our end. We did have to cancel a couple because of the other school, something happened. So again, we want kids to be safe. We want coaches, we want fans and parents to be safe, but hopefully things will continue to trend in a more positive way.
Yeah, and we're looking at it on the high school narrative, especially out here in California. We want to make sure that we are a resource for family and parents and all these other people who want to watch some of those games. So we're looking at being able to broadcast some of these games, televise, or stream, live stream some of these games. And the best part is at no charge to the family. So if you have our app, it'll be free, or you can go to the hsnarrative.tv, which is basically the same thing, and be able to watch some of these games, all over the nation. We're trying to find a way to be able to give back as well, to be able to help during these times of COVID.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I'm glad you mentioned, the National AD Network with Ira and Amanda on one of the previous national Zoom calls. I know Amanda had put together a PowerPoint presentation it was aimed at, the situation in California, but it was showing a lot of those statistics that I was, rambling off just a minute ago.
Yeah.
So hats off to Amanda and Ira for what they do and for what you do in helping them present that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I don't even think they understood how powerful what they were putting together. When she came to me and she was talking about it, I was like, I hope you're ready for that. That's a lot, because everybody's at home right now, and these ADs want to find out a way to be able to do things and bounce things off of each other. And it's amazing that I'm surprised that some ADs are not on there. You know what I mean? Like listening and engaging with other ADs. Everybody's strong in their own, but a whole lot stronger, together when you're talking to very successful athletic directors across the country.
Oh, absolutely. The concept of networking, I think, is borne out by the things that we can do like this, online. When, I got the idea, it certainly didn't come to me on my own to, start this podcast. But initially, I was just thinking, well, let's tell the story of our athletic directors here in Florida. And, we still do that. But, after I think we'd done 7 or 8 episodes, I get a call from a buddy who I'd met through the national organization. Hey, I've been listening. Can I be a guest? And so, here we are, 6 months later and 6,000 downloads later. So I guess as long as people keep listening, we'll keep doing them.
I think people will keep listening. Jake, I think you guys do a phenomenal job. I'm not an AD, but I could probably be an AD because I've been dealing with ADs for the last 9 months on a personal level, being able to listen and ask questions and stuff like that. But no, I really couldn't be an AD because I really don't know the ins and outs of your jobs. It's not that easy, but I'm listening.
Well, I think we'll get into that question in just a minute. But another question we've been asking our ADs these past 6 months has to do with the idea of social awareness, social justice, and my question has been this: what can we do as athletic directors? What can we do better with our kids, our coaches, our families, our communities? How can we do better in this area of social awareness?
First off, Jake, I want to say thank you for asking that question. That is, with the social climate that's going on across the country, that is probably one of the most important questions that you could ask anyone. I don't care if they're Black, white, Asian, whatever nationality that they are. I had this conversation with an AD that we spoke of earlier. And when they asked me the question, the first thing I said is, listen. You have to be able to listen. That's the actual second thing. The first thing is asking the question. How are you feeling? How are you feeling first and foremost, right? And the second part, which I said, is then sit back and listen to what they have to say. The biggest thing about race, Jake, is that people are uncomfortable with where to go with that conversation. But I think, and that's okay. And I think that's okay. But I think that it's so important for an athletic director. I would say go to each person on your staff, first off, and ask them, how you doing? Each individual, not in a meeting setting, each individual, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And what can I do to help you, right? Because you're not going to be able to change everything that's going on around you, outside of the school or wherever you are. But understanding that to them and to you, they are important. If they've heard something, within the program, I think you address it immediately. I think that whatever it might be, whether it be social or sexual or anything, I think that there has to be a zero tolerance policy. And that's the first thing of what could we do. And what they can do better is look every day. I want to say when you wake up every day, you have to look yourself in the mirror and ask, am I doing everything I can to make everybody that works for me, under me, and students feel comfortable? And probably the last thing is, am I the person that they can talk to? If you can't self-reflect or reevaluate the type of person that you are, if things are going on and you didn't know about it in your program or your school, then you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, why didn't I know? Right? You have to have a culture of, you can talk to me. I want to know any and everything that goes on around here. And I think being respectful to your peers and being a servant leader are really important, because if it goes on within your program and you didn't know, you're still responsible.
Very, very powerful words. And, at our school, and again, I didn't come up with this. I heard it many, many years ago, but I've stolen it and used it. We tell our coaches, and our coaches have really embraced it. The phrase is this: everything that we see at our school, at your practice, in the hallways, everything we see, it's either coached or it's allowed. Which one is it? And that is great coming right back at me as an athletic director. Everything we see it's either coached by me or allowed by me. So our coaches have really done a great job with that. Certainly, we're not done, and we can always get better, which is what my question was. But I appreciate you sharing that. Very meaningful words.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question.
Let's go ahead and lighten it up just a little bit. What I always ask the ADs, what's your favorite part of the job? And almost always they would answer the kids, as it should be. You shouldn't be an athletic director or a coach if you don't like kids. But acknowledging that, what are some of the favorite things about your job? What gets you excited about coming to work each day?
It's such a funny question, because when I went into this, number one, I didn't think I would be podcasting, right? I didn't. That's not something that I thought I would do. Probably thought about it before, but never really wanted to follow up on it and kind of go down that path. The favorite part of my job is being able to work with Tony and Mary, and the partners that we have to create. Number one, inspire. Number two, and probably most importantly, educate kids, adults, administrators on things that affect our youth and our adolescent. So yes, as an AD, they would say the students. I would say the students are so important, but there are so many different ingredients to the student that makes the masterpiece, and that is all the other things that I kind of talked about and spoke about. So I have a great time, man. I've met some very interesting people, podcasting and interviewing, that I will continue to have a relationship with since the show. So that is probably the most, my favorite part of my job is the interaction with team, staff, students, and administrators.
Right. And again, you started off with the people that you work with, there in your office, which I think for any AD, hopefully you've got a great group of coaches that you spend the majority of your time with. You don't see the kids as much, up close, but getting to know those coaches, working with them, helping them help the students. Parents certainly sneak into that equation as well. And for the most part, we have some really great parents at our school. But yeah, it's the people that you work with and the things that you do that makes up your job. And I say this all the time: I'm living the dream. I can't believe I get paid to hang out with kids and go to games and things like that. So
don't you think that it would be successful programs and success, that word is so ambiguous, right? But successful programs, I think, even when you look at pro sports, right? And let's take, and I'll talk about the Clippers, and I'll tell you where I'm going with this. I'll talk about the Clippers being in Florida and Orlando and going through the bubble, and they were expected to win the championship. Now, I'm a huge Laker fan. I didn't expect them to do anything because at the end of the day, they're the Clippers, right? That's how I feel about the Clippers. They lost to Denver, right? They blew a 3-1 lead. And what started to come out afterwards is all the turmoil that was going on in the locker room and with staff and stuff like that about favoritism for certain stars on the team and how the coach lost them. If your program is going to be successful, you have to make sure that everyone is on the same page, right? And being treated fairly. And when you ask, Jake, have you ever asked somebody how you doing and then turned around and walked away? Because I don't do that. If I ask you how you doing, I'm gonna look at you in the face and wait for you to respond. And you ever have somebody look at you and go, "Oh, it's good," and then I just continue to sit there. Okay, something's up. No, when I ask you how you're doing, I really want to know how you're doing. So that gives you this time to be able to voice exactly how you're feeling in that moment. If I didn't want to know, trust me, I would just said, "Hey, what's up?" and kept on walking.
No, and again, I think what you're getting at is it's the relationships that lead to that success. And that's where, again, our coaches have done a great job. And I think we don't take it for granted, but it is somewhat self-perpetuating. You know, our teams do very well on the scoreboard. We hang a lot of banners, but that's not our goal. Okay. Our goal, and it says so right in our handbook, our goal is to provide every kid through the athletic department, provide every kid with a great high school experience. Now that might be as a star, it might be as a substitute, it might be as a fan in the stands or a manager, but we're going to use athletics to give them a great high school experience. And we also, along with that, we're going to, do our best. We're going to come to practice every day. We're going to work hard. We're going to support our teammates.
Yeah.
We're going to lift weights. We're going to do the things that successful teams do. And so that outcome is a great experience. Now, the icing on the cake, some years it's a district championship, some years it's a state championship, but that's not our goal. Okay. That's a byproduct of doing things the right way. And again, our coaches have bought into it. Our kids have bought into it. And 99% of our parents have bought into it. That 1%, that's the ones that end up in my office that I get to talk to.
So can I ask you a question about that? Because
Absolutely.
I did one of my first shows out of the 60 was how you guys deal with parents, how parents deal with administrators, officials, and stuff like that. I think that's a hard part of your job. You want to say it's the best part and that you enjoy that aspect of it. But what about those parents who every parent feels their kid is the best player in the world and should be playing professionally? So they want their kids to be able to be on the field, on the court, wherever that is. How do you as an AD deal with parents that are not so culturally involved in how you are putting your culture and spirit out there?
Well, there's a lot of different things, but I think number one, you acknowledge that parent or those parents exist. Parents are never going to see it from the coach's perspective. They're going to see it from their kid's perspective. And that's natural. You want your kid to do great. The coach is looking at it. We want the team to do great. And then we're going to look at each individual and help them become the best they can be. So we're very intentional. We're very purposeful in our communications with parents about that. This is our goal, provide every kid with a great experience. From a team, we want the team to do well. Individually, we're going to develop individual talents. And when it gets to that point of the discussion, we say, that these are coaches' decisions. You don't decide, I don't decide as the AD who plays quarterback or who's going to get the lead in the spring play, who's going to sing the solo and the musical. Those are coaches' decisions.
Right.
And we accept that. And as I talk to my coaches, okay, make sure you're coaching the heck out of the star and the substitutes, help that substitute get better. I tell our parents, don't ask me or don't ask the coach why your child, son or daughter, isn't playing more. Ask your child, because I challenge the coaches, and the coaches do a good job. Tell those kids exactly what they have to do to get better so they can play more. It's more at the middle school level.
Yeah.
Billy, you got to stop traveling when you get that ball. Jump stop, pivot. When you start doing that, you're going to get more minutes. And so now
Right.
Billy on that ride home can tell his parents, hey, I got to stop traveling. And we acknowledge at the middle school level that everybody is going to play, but everybody is not going to play the same amount. But
Right.
over the course of the season, your child will have a great experience. And we
Right.
couch it in those terms. And I tell our coaches, I don't want to see Billy growing cobwebs at the end of the bench. Okay, get him in the game. Let the parents see what you see every day, that they can't handle the ball against pressure, that they bounce it off their knee and it goes out of bounds. And give them those 30 seconds, those 45 seconds at the end of the first quarter so they can get out there. If the parents never see it, okay, it makes it harder for me to defend you. I'll always defend
Right.
you, but help me help you. And again, we don't do it in a mean-spirited way for the kid, because the kids want to play. Varsity, it's going to be a little bit different. We tell our parents, hey, we're putting our best out there. This is like the academic college bowl, the brain
Right.
bowl. Okay. We're
Right.
not going to let, Jerry answer this one question on history when Jerry doesn't know what the heck he's doing. Okay?
That's right. That's right.
So and again, we have fun in our coaches meetings, and I have fun with our parents too. But the vast majority of our parents, they get it, and they may not embrace it, but they accept it. And we just tell them flat out, this is how we roll.
Yeah.
In my 5 years at McClay, the current school I'm at, I've had maybe, I'll go high. I was going to say 2, but I'll say 3 times in 5 years. I've had to talk to a parent and just say, maybe this isn't the best school for your kid.
Right.
And the response has always been, oh no, we love it here. Okay. Well, why are you in my office? Okay. And then the other part of that is my boss, our head of school, whether it's your principal or superintendent at a public school, but my boss, his phrase is, we do not have time for that kind of foolishness. If a parent comes to him, he will first say, have you talked to Jake? Okay. And most of the time it's no.
Right.
And he may listen to him for a little bit, but he's not going to make any decisions. He's going to send him to me, which helps tremendously. And then if our coaches do a great job, that makes my job so much more
easier. Yeah.
So that was a long answer to your question.
No, it's a great answer, because it's hard. It's so funny. I was officiating the game, and I don't advise this by every official. I'm a very easy, outgoing, as you can see, type of official, and we're in an AAU setting, and we make a call or something. The parents, that was actually good defense, Jimmy. It's a timeout. I'm standing by the ball. I turn to the parent and like, I wouldn't tell my kid that, because actually he fouled him. So give them the right information first off, and then let them make the adjustment. So. That's interesting that you said that.
Here's a virtual fist bump. I'm a basketball official too. So.
All right. There we go.
Okay. Well, Mo, you and I have spoke. We've communicated, emails and, 1 or 2 phone calls, but this has been great, visiting with you, but we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up our podcast with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you're not an athletic director, but you certainly know your way around sports and athletic departments. So my question is this. I'm tasking you with sending out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. What 3 items are going to go in Moe Orr's athletic director toolbox?
Hey, I got one that is going to be great. I need a book called The Know-It-All AD, because I heard AD means all doing, because you have to do everything now. So that's the first thing. My second thing is probably going to be a whistle, and I'll say a whistle for this new AD because there'll be times where you have to blow it to stop everything so that you can actually take a breath and try to figure out exactly what's going on. And then the last thing that I'll put in there is a mentor, somebody that you can go to and ask questions, bounce things off of, ideas, and be able to communicate some of your successes and frustrations. So those three things I would put in there.
Again, we always come back to that mentoring, networking, how important that is. I really appreciate you sharing that. Mo, one
I bet
more
you never
time.
had a whistle put in your box. I bet you have never had a whistle put in your box. That's the official in me.
Well, years ago, I got a gift. I think it might have been my second or third year at a faculty get together, and it was an old school, whistle with the P in it. And,
With the P in it.
Yeah, I still have that. Okay.
Hey, don't mix that up and put it in your bag when you're going out to officiate a game. They have things about officials with P whistles and glasses.
That's our association's very very big on that. Okay. Well, Mo, tell our listeners again one more time, if they want to, and I'm telling you folks, if you have not been to High School Narrative and the other sites, you need to tell them where to go.
Look, first off, I'll say go to the highschoolnarrative.tv. The highschoolnarrative.tv. It is a site that you can go on and watch all the videos. Go to the video on demand portion of it, and you can see all the videos that are uploaded. Kids send videos in, schools send videos. We talk about the culture. We got influencers. We have other people that are doing shows also on there. Sit Down with Sam. We have Denny Lennon, who is a great guy and does a show out here in LA. Of course, we have Outside the Games with Kevin out of Portland. Rick Manarino, he's out of Vegas. And of course, Talk with Moe Orr. You can go in there and see things about Go Be Great and the Go Be Great Foundation for 17 Recovery, the High School Narrative, or just the THSNarrative.tv. And please download our free iOS app at www.thsnapp.com, and it'll take you straight to our app. And that's it, man. It's great. You can follow me on social media at Mo_Orr. That's Mo with an E, or with 2 R's. That's on Twitter and on Instagram. Please follow me at Mo the HS Narrative.
Moe Orr, High School Narrative, and many other sites. Thanks so much for being a guest. Okay.
Hey, I appreciate it, Jake. Thanks for having me on. I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm listening to episodes, especially every time you guys release them. I follow you on Twitter, and it's a joy. And thank you for getting those ADs' voices out there from all over the nation.
No, right back at you. We appreciate the support. To our listeners, remember the video recordings of these Zoom interviews are being uploaded to the Educational Athletic Director FIAAA YouTube channel. So check those out as well. And until next time, have a great day. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD.